Sophia Wanona wants to take this another direction altogether.
Yes, I do. It's important for people who love.
For those who love.
And who intend
but everyone loves, I believe.
No, I'm talking about that other love.
Which one?
When people say, "Siya Mungu." Anyway, we're talking about love at first sight today. Of course, it's all God's love. Love is from above, right, Chris? So, love at first sight, and we're joined by Chris Hart, our relationship expert. Every Wednesday he's with us, and we're trying to understand more about, does it really exist? How does it happen? Have you ever fallen in love at first sight? Perhaps you could call in and share your experience with us. Phone numbers will be scrolling on the bottom of your screen, and we'll be open to receive your calls this morning. But Chris, love at first sight, you hear people talk about that all the time. I've heard that. But does it really exist? Can you fall in love with a person for the first time you met them?
Yes, people do. It's a very eerie experience, in fact.
Quite the word.
It's one of these moments, you know, when you suddenly realize your whole life's been turned upside down, and you feel some people feel quite devastated.
Right.
It's quite rare. Let's be frank about that. Not many people will experience it. And some people experience it on the spot. You know, literally their eyes meet and they're overwhelmed by this feeling. Some, it sort of builds over an hour. And, you know, it's an hour later, or probably after they've parted company from the person, they're suddenly overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
But either way, it's very eerie, very weird, and you definitely have this feeling that something's going to happen.
So, separate for me love at first sight against, say, a crush, against, you know, just a huge attraction. Because when we say love at first, I mean, it's not really love. It's possible to look at somebody even after an hour of interaction with them to be in love and the real sense of love.
You know what it is? It's partly, we use the word love to cover a number of different emotions, actually. I mean, at one extreme, you've got lust, you know, all about making babies. But then you've got this thing that psychologists call limerence, which is that love at first sight, that tremendous attraction. And it's got to be said that that's pretty temporary. And it's rather different from the love that lasts for 20, 30 years or helps you bring up your children. Now, that infatuation, that big
strong
hit.
Feeling.
Yes, that big hit.
Fire, like you're burning.
Yes. Now, that's all driven by some really quite emotional stuff going on in your head. I mean, partly it's hormonal, partly it's what psychologists call a template, an idea, a mental model in your mind of what attracts you. And what makes love at first sight is when your template is met exactly. You meet up with somebody and they hit every button, and you're hitting every one of their buttons. And so, of course, at that moment, you're both absolutely, you know, turned on enormously. Wow. It's not like a crush, which might develop slowly, surreptitiously over quite a long period of time. It happens at the moment your eyes meet. And it's not just your eyes, it's what you're doing, it's the way people are smiling, it's the way they're looking at you. I hate to say it, it's also how they smell. A huge proportion of it is how you smell. Okay. And I'm not talking about cologne and stuff like that, I'm talking about sweat.
Ooh, okay. All right. So how then do you tell somebody, you know, this initial feeling they will have looking at somebody or interacting with somebody for the first time? How do you treat that? Because you've said there's some who it could be that genuine one that could carry them into marriage, into raising kids. But for many, it's just this really infatuation or lust. They just want to... You know, so how do you
react?
Sift that?
I mean, well, enjoy it for the first bit. I mean, thoroughly enjoy it. You don't actually have a choice. It's so overwhelming.
It's there,
But you've got to be aware that as the brain kicks into this sensation, a lot of other things are happening as well. It's not just turning up your love dial, it's also turning down other parts of your brain. For example, it makes it very difficult for you to make judgments about trustworthiness. So you're actually not going to spot that person's faults. They might immediately start doing quite unpleasant things and you won't notice. You know, love is blind. So you've actually got to be rather cautious. You've got to enjoy the moment, but over the next few hours and days and weeks, you've got to get a little more rational.
Yeah, and that's I think the difficult part for most people, because it's such a beautiful feeling and you want to continue swimming and being in that
Yes.
balloon.
Yes.
But, you know, you need to bust it and come down to earth and
Yes, you do.
interact in reality.
And there are some real drawbacks
Yeah.
associated with love at first sight, because, for example, this template, it's more or less fixed. So if you don't put a lot of effort into trying to change it, you are going to always be attracted to the same sort of person. And this template comes from your upbringing, the relationship you had with your parents, and the other significant people around you all the way through your childhood and your adolescence. Now, the problem with it is that, say you fall for somebody, you have a bad experience with them, so you move on and you find somebody else, it'll be the same person all over again. So you've got to be very wary of falling for somebody as opposed to making a slow and rational decision about them, because the template effect means that you're likely to be making the same mistake over and over again.
Wow.
Yes, wow.
Wow. That means you could be going for bad guys after bad guys
Yeah,
after bad guys.
after bad guys, or bad girls after bad girls.
Bad girls after bad girls.
Absolutely.
Okay. You know, there's this statements people will say, follow your heart, you know.
Yes.
Would you advise one to follow their heart? Because now I have this immense feeling that,
Yes.
say, Joshua is the man.
Yes.
Should I just, pursue and pray for Joshua to...
I think, like I say, as it happens, I don't think you'll have a fat lot of choice, really. It'll just go like that.
Yeah.
But I think over the next little while, you've got to start being rational.
Yeah.
You've got to start asking yourself all the questions about whether this person is really what suits you.
Okay.
You've got to ask questions about their values. You've got to ask questions about their history, their background, the way they're conducting their life. And if those things start to meld in well with yours, then things probably will go quite well.
Yeah.
But given the love at first sight phenomenon, the chances of them being spot on are quite remote, actually. So, you know, you shouldn't take it as a strong indication that everything's going to be successful.
Right. It shouldn't be the green light of this
No,
is
absolutely.
a sign from above.
It's not a sign from above.
It's not a sign from above. What about when it's you, you know, you're into this person and they're quite honestly not, you know, sharing the same feelings. It's not mutual. It's just you falling in love at first sight.
That can happen, of course, but it's actually quite rare, because
Really?
if for example, as I get closer to you, way over half the attraction is actually, I hate to say this again, smell, and it's reciprocal. So if you are turned on by all my hormone levels, I'm going to be turned on by yours. So the chances of a love at first sight being one-sided are not very great.
Okay.
Yeah, but bear in mind
That's
it's
interesting.
rare, so don't get over hopeful.
Yeah. Okay. But how does it feel? Describe. Have you had that? How does that love? Because I haven't. Maybe you can help somebody.
I've never had the one where you literally meet somebody's eyes, but I've had the one which develops over the hour or so.
Okay.
And in my particular case, it happened after we'd parted company and I drove off, and I had to stop after a short while and, you know, just think, because I was just so overwhelmed with the feeling that my life had changed.
Did you want to drive back?
No, I didn't. I overcame all those feelings.
Yeah.
But it is this feeling that you can't understand it. You can't get your mind around it. Your conscious mind is completely lost, and you're just swamped with all these feelings.
Okay. Well, which brings us to all sorts of love. You know, we have different types of love. You could take us through that, because there's this that, you know, will dawn on you that there's something about this person, and you are advised to try get back to earth as soon as possible and, you know, really get to know this person. But when you're looking at the other types of love, what are we talking about?
Well, like I mentioned, there's lust, which is really just fueled by physical things, appearance and so on. And that grows into this thing called limerence, which is what people experience when they say they're infatuated. Now, the problem with these two is that they're all chemically driven. They pay no attention whatsoever to the, shall we say, the rational judgments about one another as to whether or not you're at the right stages in your life or behave in the right way or anything like that. It's all driven by physical appearance, behavior, smell, all those sorts of things. And the worst feature of it is that you're absolutely swamped with these hormones that are creating the feelings. And they have these double-edged sword effects. You know, on the one hand, you are driven by this huge feeling of love, but at the same time, your ability to make judgments is impaired. And of course, that's a bad place to be, you know, especially if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're a little bit tipsy. You're likely to do a few things that you perhaps didn't ought to.
Yeah.
So you've got to be very careful about the infatuation sort of love. The other thing that's bad about infatuation is that it's got a shelf life. There's no two ways about it. It fades away. It doesn't matter how much in love you are, it fades away. And if during that period you're not replacing it with the more sincere, lifelong sort of attraction, then you're probably just going to fall out. And that's why so many people part after about a couple of years.
Okay, so what is it about infatuation that gets it to go away, and yet at the beginning it looks so real? You
know, I hate to say this, but I think our bodies play horrible tricks on us. And we think we're in control and we're not actually. I think basically lust and infatuation is all about getting people into bed together. It's all about trying to start the process of having children. And I don't think our bodies care too much about the fallout. So if, for example, you've fallen in love with somebody and a year or two later, the idea is that it's making you much more critical of this partner as these hormone levels fall. The love is blind effect wears out. You start to see each other's faults as something rotten. And if this partner is not, in fact, the ideal partner for you, that's the point at which you'll start making critical decisions about them. So I'm afraid it's a program we follow.
It's a program we follow. Let's talk to Peter, who's calling us from Nairobi. Peter, good morning.
Good morning to you, Sophia.
Thank you for calling. Go ahead with your question or comment.
Okay, I have a question this morning. Now, my question is that there is somebody that I've had a crush for like 2 years now, and I've not really met a move, or no, do I really know about her so much? So I don't know whether it's normal or whether it's normal for me so that I can make a start move.
How long did you say you've had the crush?
Around 4 years now.
So how long did you say it has been?
What? Sorry?
How long have you liked this person for?
4 years.
4 years. So what do you think has made you not, express your feelings?
Okay, normally I don't really know about her, anything about her, apart from just seeing her and just like I feel like I love this person.
Okay. Have you ever talked to her?
What?
Have you ever spoken to her?
Yeah, but not really about love. Just to speak to her on some issues. Yeah, okay. we are students with her. Actually, we are in the same school, so I'm not really.
All right.
But yeah.
All right, Peter. We're gonna get Chris to try help you out. Thanks for calling and for watching the show. So 4 years he's known this woman, doesn't know much about her, but he says he's spoken to her, because I found that he's never quite gotten to know much, but just 4 years is a long time.
Yes, it is a long time.
Yeah.
Now, it's a funny thing, but in our lives, the things we regret most are not the mistakes we make and the foolish things we do, but the things we don't do. And I think this applies to this guy. I think he should speak to this lady. Now, he probably doesn't want to rush up to her and say, oh gosh, I'm completely in love with her. She'll think he's weird. But he does need to spend more time where she spends time, make sure their paths cross a little more, and to just start making small talk. And in all probability, in that small talk, he'll swiftly realize that there's no possibility of anything happening, and his feelings will fade away. But you never know, do you? If he starts to talk to her, he may suddenly discover that actually she feels the same way about him. Now, you don't want to let this go on for another 4 years. Go and find out straight away.
Yeah, because, clearly he's spoken to her, they've talked, and he seems not to have gotten the sense of what she feels, or maybe he has, or she's tried to communicate, and he's in denial about it. But he needs to just say it?
Yes, really. This is the stuff of movies, isn't it? A standard movie plot are the two people who can't actually say the words to one another. He just needs to take his heart in his hand and just say something.
Wow.
As I say, start gently.
Yeah.
Ask a few questions about her. Ask her a few questions about what she's doing at the weekends and things like that, and just let let the conversation run on for a few minutes and see how she's reacting.
Okay.
And if the mood gets into the right place, then he should just gently suggest that they do something together.
Okay.
Don't actually swear undying love. Just say, how's about drinking some coffee?
Yeah.
And if she's feeling the way he would like her to be, she'll definitely agree.
Yeah, and wouldn't you advise people that even if you feel love and these strong feelings and emotions about person, soon after meeting them, if not even the same day, shouldn't quite tell somebody, you know, I love you, I think I love you, I'm falling in love with you. They shouldn't do that. Before you answer that, let Mohammed ask his question and talk to us. Mohammed, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thanks for calling.
Yes, hello.
Hi, go ahead.
Good morning, Sophia. Thank you. What I wanted to find out, is actually, I've had a couple of friends that had this kind of love at first sight, as they call it. It's never happened to me, and I've never experienced that yet. But it's kind of a very devastating feeling, and it had such a great effect on them that they couldn't go and approach whoever it is that they fell in love at first sight, wherever they met. That expression that they could express themselves towards that person that they didn't have. And the biggest factor was that they might get rejected, the fear of rejection. Could maybe give me an insight on that place?
Mohammed, your line is not clear. We cannot quite make out what you're saying, unfortunately. Maybe we'll try to get back to you, but also you can tweet us or text us, and we'll get to your thoughts on this subject this morning. But thank you for calling. Poor connection there. But yeah, to that question, Chris, because it is an interesting thought.
Which bit are you talking about?
No, what I was asking before we went.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yes, we took the call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to trace my thoughts because I was so to get what Mohammed was asking.
It's a very difficult thing to make a decision about, because you might look into that other person's eyes and realize that they're feeling exactly the same emotion as you. And then, of course, people do actually say things about, gosh, you know, what's happening, and they start to discuss it straight away. But more often than not, you are a bit overwhelmed and a bit cautious, a bit scared. And so you just, well, to be honest, you get all flustered and you start saying anything that comes in your head. So you're quite right. You can't just rush up to people and say, I've fallen in love with you.
Yes.
They basically start calling the police at that point. You just have to start the conversation and see where it goes.
And be patient. The world is not ending.
No, but
though it may feel like it is.
In the case where it's happened to both of you, and as I say, it usually does, then things are going to get pretty intense pretty quickly, in all probability. And of course, needless to say, there's a lot of risks associated with that, because people don't make good decisions when their hormones are running high. I mean, men in particular will do all sorts of crazy things, so the ladies should be very cautious. But I have to say, the ladies will do some pretty daft things when they're in that mood.
Well.
And of course, those are the times when you're likely to make decisions you'll regret.
Okay. And also, it's, as we bring this to a close, sometimes people will do certain things like call all the time after every 5 minutes, and as time goes on, that will reduce, and then it could be interpreted by some as a reduction in affection or in love or change in feelings, and then arguments begin. You know? Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, the moment you've got past that first day or two, things are going to start to become more normal. Normal in the sense that you've just described. You do begin to see each other's faults. You do start to irritate one another. And hopefully you'll start to see one another as you really are. The danger is that you get so overwhelmed by it. It goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks, by which time you've taken a few decisions you can't back out of. So my advice to anybody who's experiencing this is very cautious.
Very cautious.
Go nice and slow. Enjoy the moments, but, you know, take things very gently.
Yeah, take things slow. True. I think no better way to wind up the show than that, because it does, I imagine, would feel like, you know, it's happening now. We need to get married now. We need to get kids now. We need to buy this house now. Yeah, but taking it slow and just allowing the moment to be and enjoying it.
Indeed.
Thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure.
love at first sight. Y'all enjoy yourselves if you're going through that or feeling it for whoever, but take it slow.